Episode 1, The Echoes Awaken. Picture this, a storm so fierce it feels like the sky itself is unraveling, and in the heart of it, an old house that doesn't just shelter you from the rain, it hungers for the stories you've buried deepest. What if those walls didn't just hold secrets, but breathed them back to life, one whisper at a time? Welcome to Midnight Mummers, where the ordinary twists into the unimaginable, and every shadow hides a truth you'd rather forget. Tonight, we step into the first chapter of our gripping saga, Echoes of the Abyss. Based on whispers from real forgotten estates like the labyrinthine Winchester Mystery House, where a grieving widow built endless corridors to trap restless spirits, this tale weaves the line between history's chill and nightmare's grip. Dim the lights, lock the doors, and let the echoes begin. The wipers slashed futilely against the torrent, each pass a desperate plea against the onslaught. Alex Harlan gripped the wheel of their rented SUV, veins bulging like roots under his skin, as the rural stretch of Route 17 in upstate New York blurred into a watercolor of grays. It was supposed to be a simple escape, a weekend at a secluded cabin to mend the fraying threads of his relationship with Mia. 5 years together, and lately, it felt like they were ghosts haunting each other's lives, polite conversations over takeout, silences thicker than fog. The app listing had promised rustic charm and total privacy, a steal at $150 a night. But now, with the GPS sputtering its last coordinates before going dark, privacy felt more like isolation's cruel joke. "Alex, this isn't funny anymore," Mia said, her voice a tight wire over the roar of rain on the roof. She was curled against the door, arms wrapped around herself as if holding in a shiver that had nothing to do with the cold. Her dark hair, usually a cascade of effortless waves, clung damply to her neck from an earlier splash through a puddle at their last gas stop. At 28, Mia Reyes still carried the wide-eyed intensity of the literature student Alex had fallen for in college, passionate debates over Bronte novels turning into stolen kisses in the campus library. But tonight, her eyes darted to the windows like a cornered animal's. He forced a grin, the kind that never quite reached his eyes these days. "It's an adventure, remember? Like that road trip to the Smokies, except without the raccoon stealing our cooler." But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at him. The last town sign had read, Eldridge Hollow, Pop 847, a name that tugged at some half-buried memory from childhood vacations, vague and unsettling. His parents had dragged him and his little sister, Lena, upstate every summer, chasing, family bonding, in places that always ended in arguments and slammed doors. Lena, gone at 8, vanished during a hike near an old estate. Wandered off, the police said. Probably a coyote, but Alex, 9 and terrified, remembered her hand slipping from his in the mist, her laugh echoing until it didn't. Lightning clawed the horizon, etching the silhouette of something massive ahead, not their cabin, but a hulking Victorian behemoth, its turrets piercing the storm like accusatory fingers. Ivy strangled the stone walls, windows shattered into jagged maws, and the whole structure sagged as if exhausted by a century of standing witness. It reminded Alex of grainy photos he'd seen online, the Winchester Mystery House in California, where Sarah Winchester hammered away for 38 years, adding rooms and staircases to nowhere, convinced the spirits of those killed by her husband's rifles demanded appeasement. Eldridge Hollow's Abyss Manor, as locals apparently called it in faded folklore, had its own lore, built in 1887 by Elias Blackwood, a railroad baron whose fortune was as blood-soaked as Winchester's, stained by exploited workers buried in unmarked graves along the tracks. "We can't keep driving in this," Alex muttered, veering onto a gravel drive choked with weeds. The tires crunched like brittle bones, jolting them forward until the manor loomed, indifferent. "Just wait it out. 10 minutes, tops." Mia's laugh was sharp, edged with hysteria. "In that? It looks like the set of a Hammer film. One creaky door from Dracula popping out with a cape." But she unbuckled anyway, because what choice did they have? The storm had swallowed the road behind them, turning it into a river of mud. They bolted from the car, rain lashing their faces like needles, clothes plastering to skin in seconds. The front door, a slab of oak warped by time, yielded with a groan that resonated in Alex's chest, as if the house had been holding its breath. Inside, the foyer unfolded like a sepia photograph come to life, a grand staircase spiraling up into gloom, its banister carved with gargoyles whose eyes seemed to gleam wetly in the beam of Alex's phone flashlight. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls, dust motes swirling in the intrusion of light. The air was heavy, laced with mildew and something sharper, coppery, like pennies left too long in a damp drawer. Or blood, long dried. Mia sneezed, the sound echoing unnaturally loud. God, it's like stepping into a tomb. Who leaves a place like this unlocked? Squatters. Or worse. Alex swept the light across the walls, portraits in gilt frames, subjects stiff in Edwardian finery, their gazes tracking the intruders with painted disdain. One woman, severe in black lace, caught his eye, Eleanor Blackwood, the Baron's daughter, according to a brass plaque. Her eyes, pale and piercing, held a desperation that made his stomach twist. Real history flickered in his mind. He'd skimmed an article once on a ghost hunting forum about Eldridge. Eleanor vanished in 1923 during a gala, her body never found. Rumors of occult rituals in the basement, mirrors used to summon the other side. Elias, racked by guilt or madness, boarded up the manor after dying alone in an asylum. The house sat abandoned, a scar on the landscape, occasionally drawing thrill-seekers who left with tales of whispers and cold spots, echoes of the dead demanding company. Probably just kids breaking in, Alex lied, more to himself. Let's find a room that's not falling apart. They ventured into what might have been a parlor, furniture shrouded in dust sheets like burial linens. A grand piano hunkered in the corner, keys yellowed and silent. Mia perched on a settee, pulling her knees up, while Alex paced, phone clutched like a talisman. No signal. Thunder rattled the foundations, and for a moment, the house seemed to lean in, listening. Then, it started. A murmur, soft as silk tearing, Mia. Her name, drawn out like a sigh from the vents. She bolted upright, color draining from her olive skin. Did you? Wind, Alex cut in, but his pulse betrayed him. He froze, ears straining. Nothing. Just the storm's symphony. But it came again, closer, from the walls themselves. Help us. Mia. Her breath hitched, a small animal sound. That's my name. Alex, that's impossible. He yanked her up, flashlight whipping shadows into frenzy. The piano keys depressed on their own, a slow, discordant plink-plink, like fingers testing the silence. Beneath it, the whispers layered, a cacophony of voices, men grunting in labor, a woman's sob, children's laughter curdling into cries. Run, but you can't, the tracks call. Panic clawed up Alex's throat. Real or not, it felt like the house was peeling back their skins, exposing nerves. Mia's hand trembled in his as they stumbled back to the foyer, but the door, jammed now, as if sealed by invisible hands. Shadows pooled in the corners, thickening, stretching toward them like oil slicks. One detached, humanoid, its edges fraying into wisps. It leaned close to Alex's ear, breath icy. Lena waits, brother, remember the fog. His knees buckled. Lena. The name he'd locked away, therapy sessions blurring it into accident. But here, in this place, it sharpened, her small hand in his, the mist rolling in like a living thing, her voice fading. Alex, wait. Flashes assaulted him, cops' flashlights, his parents' hollow eyes, the unspoken blame that had splintered their family. Get it together. Mia hissed, pounding the door. Wood splintered under her fists, but it held. Hours dragged, or minutes. Time smeared in the flashlight's glow. They barricaded in a side chamber, a study lined with leather-bound tomes, the air thick with the scent of aged paper and regret. Mia wept quietly, confessing fragments, her own buried grief, a miscarriage last year they'd never named, the way it hollowed her out. I thought this trip would fix us, but what if we're already broken? Alex held her, whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep, even as the whispers infiltrated. Broken things belong here. Dawn crept in grudgingly, gray light filtering through cracked panes. The door swung open unbidden, as if mocking their vigil. They fled to the car, mud sucking at their shoes, the manor shrinking in the rear view like a predator sated, for now. Back in their Brooklyn apartment that evening, steam from the shower couldn't wash away the chill. Alex lay awake, Mia's breathing even beside him, but the walls, they hummed. Faint at first, then insistent, come back, the abyss hungers. What had they disturbed in that relic of sorrow? And why did it know their wounds by name? Cliffhanger, as sleep finally claimed him, a floorboard creaked in the hall, slow, deliberate steps approaching the bed. In the darkness, a silhouette formed at the foot, not a stranger, but Mia's face, smiling with teeth too sharp, whispering, darling, it's time to remember together. But when Alex reached for her in the bed, his hand met only cold sheets.